Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Monday HR Huddle. It's February 6th. I'm here with Jennifer Wilson. I'm Renee Moelders, and we have usurped the HR Huddle from Tamara because we're so excited. We wanted to talk about our Anytime Anywhere Work survey results. So Jen and I, kind of took it over and said, let's dig in and talk a little bit about the report and what we found. So welcome everyone. We know people are kind of moving towards busy season here. You have an awful lot going on, and our audience, HR professionals, firm administrators, it's probably a good time for you to be thinking about these kinds of programs and ideas. And so, plus, we're just so excited about the survey. We're so grateful to the 216 firms that participated. And just to give you a little bit of detail about it, the survey released last week. So if you were a participant, you should have gotten an email from us so that you can download the survey. We also send out some promotional emails to allow people to access it. You can find the survey results on our website. So it's out there, it's available. We had 216 firms participating of many different sizes, also from firms all across the country. So it's a really good sort of a snapshot of the profession. And what we're really excited to say is that firms are continuing to invest, and some firms are just going so incredibly deep on these programs. And so we're proud, we're excited. We've been studying this since 2014. Jen, that was one of my first projects that I took on when I came to Convergence Coaching. And so now here we are, 2023, and the survey has evolved, and the insights have evolved, and the firms have evolved. And so the progress that firms are making, for instance, in mandatory Saturdays. I think we're close to almost 80% of firms are not requiring people to work on Saturdays. They're not dictating when you work your extra hours. Firms are continuing to expand on programs like closing on Fridays, like closing down the firm for periods of time during the year so that people can rest simultaneously together. So all those anytime innovations which in the very beginning were like little teeny tiny numbers of firms doing that, they're making this incredible progress. Another anytime innovation, unlimited PTO. Firms are really starting, we're seeing almost a fifth of firms in the survey have unlimited PTO. So just a ton of progress. I haven't even opened my mouth and said the word remote. Firms are offering these programs to admin. So we're excited about the results. And Jen, I know you're excited too. I'm going to let you say a few things that you're excited about.
Well, I mean, I'm trying not to be, amen and hallelujah over here to, to what you're saying. We're just thrilled with the progress. We're thrilled with the innovation. We're thrilled that firms that have been doing flexible work are not like sitting on their laurels or resting. They're innovating and they're continuing to up their game. They're including admin, as you said, Renee. They're hiring people outside of their geography. We have clients that used to be single offices in one city. Now they're like 20 offices and are opening their first New York office and things like that, when they weren't even on the East Coast or whatever. And they're doing that. And by office, I don't mean brick and mortars. I mean employees, locations where they have talent. And are they serving for clients in those geographies? Not necessarily. They're serving clients wherever their target market is or wherever they're focused on clients, but they've got talent all over the United States and they're learning complex multi-state talent management practices, but they're looking for talent where it lives, not trying to like settle for the lack of talent in their own geographies. And they're not just maintaining people when they relocate, which was always sort of the old story of remote workers. Today, they're hiring complete strangers and turning them into wonderful team members, putting them on the partner path. I have one client that just hired a remote direct admit partner, the first time they've ever done that. I'm so excited and so proud of them. We're seeing firms outsourcing and offshoring. I feel like we were somewhere between a quarter and a third of firms doing those things, which is so innovative. We're seeing firms hiring these operational administrators into the workflow, and our report covers all of these things. And so I would just say that, remote and flexible work has been in high demand by talent for the whole 22 years, almost 23 that we've been in business, maybe longer than that, but for sure our entire time of existence at Convergence Coaching inside our accounting profession. Talent has wanted it. And we've been seeing firms slowly, almost glacially sometimes, move there. But man, now the pace has picked up big leaps and bounds, not just because of the pandemic, but because it works and because people love it and because clients love it. And they're finding wonderful wow factors that create competitive advantage. And so the report's full of that stuff, and it's got wonderful quotes. Renee did a super job of identifying some of the cool firms that are doing cool things and getting their stories told in the report. So download it and read it. And we just feel like, gosh, we're encouraged by the innovators and worried for the laggards, I think.
Yes. Well, and one of the quotes, Jen, is from a smaller firm. It's towards the front of the report, maybe page 4 or page 5. And he talks about how they really struggle to compete in this talent market because these firms are throwing big salaries at people and big bonuses and making a lot of promises. But they are really able to deliver on this different way that they're going to run their culture, this flexible and remote culture, not being that concerned about where and when people work. And they, but they're not just making those promises, they're delivering on the promises. So I think that's something that we are concerned about. When you talk about concerns, we are seeing some firms, say one thing and do another, or one leader says, oh, yes, we have a flexible culture, and another is just not really delivering on that. So we address it in the report. We have some strategies around it. And the big one is get straight on your positioning. Get on the same page, really decide who you want to be. If you are going to sort of dip a toe in here, have your programs reflect dip a toe. If you're going all the way in, have your messaging reflect that, but be consistent, be on the same page. Otherwise, gosh, I feel for these HR folks who are going out hiring remote people who then are confused and they say, well, are we doing this or not? Am I going to have a career with this firm and a successful career here or not? It's confusing for people, creates a lot of churn and upset and frustration. And frankly, I don't know how we're going to hold on to these people. All this wonderful work that we're doing to hire remote talent, we need to make them feel really like we have committed to them as an organization. So I didn't know if you wanted to say a little something about that. I'm sure you have a couple of opinions on that.
Well, I was mentally writing a blog. While you were talking, I'm writing a blog about like remote and flex, our remote and flex belief system or value system. I was picturing, we try to get people to develop a how we work document, right? That says, this is how we work. These are our best practices for how we communicate and how we use technology and, the promotability of positions and all that stuff, right? But all of a sudden I realized okay, how we work is super important and frankly missing. I felt like it was a dismal, I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to say roughly 40% or so. It was pretty dismal.
I think lower than that,
yeah,
Jen.
Well, we'll have to look. One of us looks while we're talking, or maybe Caroline does, but it's pretty crummy how many people have documented in writing what their strategies are, right? Their best practices for it, their how we work. But even before that, we need to document our cultural manifesto or something, our value or belief system around this discussion. And so I'm going to pull out a few values and beliefs we have, and then how it's screwing up firms right now because they haven't really decided if they believe that or not. So one of them is, we believe that you can be a partner, owner, leader, run a practice remote from the mothership, and that you don't have to be physically in person to do it. Yes, occasionally in person. Yes, 100%. Showing up at strategic planning meetings if they're in person, and coming in and sometimes and visiting with clients and with talent face to face, and gathering your team for fun retreats and fun activities. Yeah, we love face to face, but we just don't think it's a necessity to have a senior role. And in fact, we meet firms that have the managing partner remote from the motherships, who started maybe in a geography, but, wanted to move the family to another state altogether and is running that firm remotely. Now, that's radical perhaps, and I'm not trying to advocate that, but one of our belief systems is you can do that. Well, we're seeing some firms hire young talent, up and coming, bright, capable, and they say, hey man, you're going to hire me. Can I have a path to partner as a remote person? And talent management saying, yes, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can. Then they get in and they go into their department and start doing work. And they're getting messages like, well, it's going to be awful hard for you to manage people remotely. Well, we're not sure you can manage clients remotely. Well, we're not sure you really have a pathway to partner here remotely. And like Mixed Message City, Utah, just not exactly what we want to be doing for our people. And that's because we haven't agreed on these belief systems. That's what I'm going to call them. And we would call you to develop your flex and remote belief systems. And it can't be like 1,000 points, more like 8 or 6 or something, but maybe you could think of another one, Renee, that's a belief system that we hear challenged a lot or mixed messaged a lot.
Yeah, can you develop business from your remote location, which we think is so crazy, Jen, because we develop business all across the country, and we're blended, so we're sometimes with the client, sometimes delivering services remotely, as are our clients, by the way. So it just seems so silly, especially so we kind of giggle about it. We have a blog about it too, that I think that's another one that shows up. And by the way, it was between 20% and 60%. So we had a number of different guideline ideas,
Oh, yeah.
accountability guidelines, home office best practices, and communication guidelines between 20% and 60%. So it's too low across the board. I think we're not really setting the stage or setting clear expectations or making the investments. That's the other thing that we saw was, you have these programs, but are you making the investments and setting people up technologically and making it just as productive to work from home as to work from elsewhere? Why not? Those are inexpensive investments to make to set your people up. And what we always find is when people are working from home, let's say if they have the opportunity to work blended, they're going to put in those extra hours outside of the usual times. They're just going to do it. It's a way for them to keep up and catch up and be able to manage their timelines and their place of work. But I had some other thoughts about, as you were going on there, Jen, about this belief systems. And we have some really good information there in the survey that I think people should take a look at. Those, we have that section at the back, actions to take.
Yes.
And inside of there, we even have some bonus content that people can click to kind of on this topic of some of the conversations, things you can say, things you shouldn't say anymore. And I think the biggest message for me is our top dog leader needs to be really driving some of this. So you HR folks, it's going to be hard for you to drive from the bottom up. You really need to go get buy-in from your managing partner to say, I need your help. We're creating these messages. We have this strategy. And so let's get aligned. And can you help me start? And I don't think it's going around, knocking heads or getting people in trouble, but it's going around saying, I'm concerned that, these things that we're hearing said at, let's say, the manager meeting aren't really on message with our top line strategy. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can get you on the same page. So kind of in a gentle manner and a coaching manner, help people start to see the risk and the damage of this kind of being off message.
I love that, Renee. And we have a saying in our business that occasionally we toss out, and that's if it's not in writing, it isn't happening, or it doesn't happen, or it isn't the truth or something. Like it's just like hearsay and, like, I don't know what. It's third party referential, almost gossip or something until it's documented and this is how it is. And that's that cultural manifesto or belief system that we're talking about here. And, you're right there with, with this idea, but I look at it and I think about like, what are the things to say, what are we talk about these action items in the back. We have 10 of them. One of them is like, I just realized that one of the big belief system issues or disconnects, this lack of alignment, is can relationships happen if they're not in person, and can they have the same depth? And the answer is, yeah, they can actually be deeper. And some people are more comfortable not sitting face to face, having like deep conversations. They like the distance. They like the, we used to do all kinds of surveying over the telephone, and people told us all kinds of stuff without video, like it's relationships don't happen because of proximity. They happen because of time spent. It's literally not a distance measure. It's a time measure. The more time you spend and the more interest you show, the deeper the relationship, period. And so what's happening because of remote work in particular is that there's a group of human beings that isn't investing the time with people that aren't physically with them. And then they say, well, we can't develop relationships unless we're in person. Get in the office. And that's because they're not using technology and investing the time, because they have a mental block on it's got to be in person. And so they won't invest the time remotely. And we saw that in the survey, that very few firms have assigned what we would call a shepherd, or a 1-to-1 ratio of Renee, you shepherd Caroline, I'll shepherd Beth. We're not clear who has the 1-to-1 person defense going on to build these relationships, to check in regularly, to understand the hopes, dreams, fears, and doubts of the people, to really make sure they know that they are loved and cared for. And we've been calling it tethering people to the firm. And in the olden days, we felt like we were tethering people because we all sat in a physical space together and worked 70-hour weeks. And so, and that put clock time on, man. We had clock time in the cubes, and we had clock time at the coffee bar, and clock time around the shared pizza table before we went back to work. And it built the relationships because of the time, not the proximity. And now we have to find new ways of doing that. And I'm super worried about firms not saying relationships can be as strong and as deep at distance as they can be in person. And we're not going to force people back to the office on the basis of the fact that we haven't figured out how to build the skill to do it in a blended or hybrid environment.
Yeah. Well, and we've got these people remotely. So I'm coaching a guy right now. He's a remote senior manager. He joined his firm and remotely, they hired him in his remote location. So they were one of those firms that is a part of the 81% that said, I hired a stranger in a remote location. And you and I were like, woohoo, so excited. And so he's a year into his relationship with them, and he just met people for the first time. And he said, I was able to walk into that office and shake people's hands, and I knew them already, and I could go to their office, and we already had something to connect with because I had done all of that work. So why wouldn't you tap a guy like that to say, help us figure out, teach the rest of us how to do that? Be like the proselytizer in the office for, you don't have to be in person with each other to have a relationship. And we know it works, Jen, because we do it. But I mean, it is interesting to try to convince people of it. They're doing it too. It's like we're just going to have to start saying, really? We have to be together to do that? Explain to me why. I don't understand why. Isn't there someone in your life who you connect with who's not together with you? I mean, my dad down in Louisiana, I don't get to be together with him all the time. We're very close. We do it with intention. So I bet these other people have those kinds of relationships. They have a sibling across the country who they stay in touch with and they care about. And if you could get them to realize, isn't this silly? You know that person well. You go deep with that person.
Snapchat, FaceTime, I'm just thinking of all the ways that I stay close to my sibs and my family and that live at distance. And we're hybrid, of course. We get together in person sometimes too, but not that often. My New York brother and his family, I might get to see once a year if I'm lucky, but man, I feel close to him, and we Snapchat, he and I, every single day. And there's different ways. And, some of you might be like, hey, we're not putting Snapchat in our cultural manifesto. Okay, fine. But,
how about a phone call? How about a phone call?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that, another thing along these lines is another cultural manifesto, value belief system statement I would make is we can be very efficient working hybridly. Some of us remotely, some of us in person. we can run hybrid teams that are super efficient and super productive. And here's how. And then make a list of the here's how, because we keep our calendars current, because we use the following technologies to communicate. And these are our communication protocols. Here are the regular communication systems we use. Here is the emergency breakthrough system that we use. Here's how we declare accessibility and response times. And they're in writing by team. And here are the ways that we share work. And here's how we delegate work. And here's what owning the work means, even if you are at distance. And, here's how we communicate with clients and how we name the point people for that. And all of that creates efficiency. All of that creates productivity. But firms are busy being like, well, I just want to go back to the way it was. So everybody get back in person and we'll just use those old systems and that'll work great. And then we'll be productive again. And the answer is, because you're not going to get everybody back. And some number are going to quit. Your productivity is going to take a hit from that. And efficiency will take a hit because you're going to have to retrain new people who are willing to come to the office 3 days a week or whatever. Let's just figure out how to do it remotely and in a hybrid environment and in a mixed environment. And so anyway, I just love this idea of the belief systems. I believe this, and then here's how. And that's how I think I would try to structure this unity you spoke of, this alignment around those beliefs with the here's how we do it. I just think that without that, I don't know how you get away from these mixed messages and the confusion. And what we're most afraid of, I think, at least I'll speak for myself. What I'm most afraid of related to remote flex right now is that firms are hot on how can we ride the train of RTO, return to office? How can I make them come back some number of days? And they're communicating this, and some are even tracking it, which is so not trusting adults. And but I'm most afraid that because there are firms that are on that train, wanting to get on it anyway, and they're messaging it and they're trying to rationalize it by saying, well, we can't be as productive when we're not together, and our relationships aren't as deep, and the learning isn't as fast. And they're saying all this. They're remote people they hired, the 100 remote people they added, or the 20 remote people, or the 2 remote people. Those people are like, this seems like a different firm than I joined. And I don't know about these messages. And so my relationships aren't good. So I can't be promoted. So my work's not efficient. They're like reading into it because we hear things selfishly. What's in it for me? What does this mean to me? So I'm mostly afraid that all these great hires we made remotely are not going to stick because we're going to mix message them out.
Yes. Well, and Jen, we don't have time for it, but we've got to figure out remote because we need to be doing outsourcing and offshoring, and that's all remote, so those wonderful strategies, there's a couple of quotes in the survey about firms who are really finding capacity through those resources. If you don't figure out remote, you can't do that stuff, folks. So we do have to figure this out, and we think the survey can help you. So please do download the report. If you haven't already, share it with your leadership team, your partners, your managers. Maybe figure out some way to process it together as a group, do a little book club and take it in pieces. It's in sections. And so you could have people read a section and then come together in a meeting, spend 10 minutes talking about what were your insights? What should we be doing here? What should we prioritize? And then HR leaders, benchmark your firm. Where are you against these different programs? And what are your biggest areas of opportunity? That's how I would be thinking about it. And we cover that in the actions to take. We don't cover the book club idea, but we do cover here's a checklist and figure out where you are against this. And here's some actions that you can take to really put this into action in your firm.
Mostly we're encouraged. Okay. So yes. we said what we're afraid of, and we said, come on, guys, let's do some things. But overall, high five, group hug, yay.
Proud
team.
of you.
Yeah, yay team. So proud of the 216 firms and the cool things they're up to and what it represents for the rest of the profession. We're so encouraged by the innovation that's displayed and in these programs and the commitment to talent and the commitment to new business models. the commitment to really move our profession forward and make it attractive and make it something all of us want to be part of. So I think that's the best part of the whole story, is encouragement is in this report. And we want to help. You tell us how, you tell us what you're trying to do. If you can't get it from the report, message us. We are happy to help. And if there's a topic you'd like to see us cover, either in a webinar or a future HR huddle, please share it with us. We're so happy to be with you today and to talk about this. And Renee, great work on the report. You and the team did a super job. So I'm so proud of you two, and really the wonderful research done here. Thanks for that.
Awesome, Jen. Thank you. And we're grateful if you participated. Thanks for doing it. We couldn't have done it without you. Have a good night, everyone.